The lemon meringue was very good, which was the problem. Marin finished the first piece before she had quite decided to start it, and reached for the second with the specific purposefulness of someone who was not thinking about anything else at all. Elmise set another plate down and said nothing. She had the quality of a person who could communicate a great deal through the precise angle of her silence. "You should see the family doctor," she said, eventually. "What if it isn't?" Marin kept her eyes on the pastry. The meringue had a good texture, crisp at the edge, soft through the center. She focused on this. "What if it's nothing again? You haven't had your cycle in 2 months. I went 6 months without it once. That was malnutrition." Elmise looked at the plate. Then at Marin. "Your nutritional status is not currently the problem." Marin reached for a third piece and met Elmise's gaze and smiled, a little sheepishly, and ate it anyway. She was hungry constantly these days. She woke up hungry. She was hungry through meals and hungry after them. Sour things, in particular, lemon, apple, anything bright and acidic, she wanted them the way she normally wanted nothing at all, with a clarity of desire that was almost structural. She thought about what Gerard had said in the garden, with perfect seriousness, examining her with the focused attention of a scientist observing a variable. Asterisk, it's because you're eating well these days. Eat more asterisk. She glanced down. Then reached for the plate, and found it empty. "Can I have another?" she said. "Apple, this time." Elmise took the empty plate without comment and left the room. Marin waited until she was gone. Then she looked around once, the room was empty, the door closed, and set her hand, lightly, over her stomach. It was full. It was full of meringue and pastry and the apple cake she'd had before lunch, and she knew this, and it didn't stop her from sitting quietly with her hand there and hoping. "Is anyone in there?" she said, very softly, to no one, or perhaps to someone. "A bud. I'm just asking for a bud." The black stone sat on the windowsill where the afternoon sun touched it. She looked at it for a moment. Then she straightened up, smoothed her skirt, and went to find the family doctor before she could decide not to. She did not tell Elmise. She did not tell Julia. She walked the long way through the east corridor, where she was least likely to be seen by anyone who would ask questions, and knocked at the doctor's door with a face she had carefully arranged into something neutral. "My lady." He stood immediately. "It's been some time." "Not that long," Marin said. "I seem to visit quite regularly." "You are always welcome." He smiled, the gentle professional smile of a man who understood what it meant when people said things they did not quite mean. "How are you feeling?" "Tired. Hungry. My cycle has been absent for 2 months." She sat down and folded her hands in her lap. "And I know what I'm about to ask, and I know it may not, that it probably," she stopped. "Can we just do the test?" "Of course." He brought out the bowl, blue palm-sized, slightly concave, containing a faint luminescence and a transparent liquid that she knew too well. She knew what it looked like when it turned blue. She had memorized the exact shade. She had spent more hours than she could count looking at that shade and trying to make her face do something other than what it wanted to do. He offered her the needle. She took it and held it and did not move. "Shall I?" "No." She breathed in. "I'll do it." She pricked her finger cleanly. A single drop fell into the bowl, and the doctor pressed a cloth to her fingertip, and they both looked at the liquid without speaking. It began to change. Marin's lips parted. She looked at the doctor, quickly, because she did not trust herself alone with this. He was smiling. "It appears red to me," he said. "Does it appear red to you as well?" She looked back at the bowl. Red. Deeply, simply, unmistakably red. "Congratulations," he said. Marin stared at the color for a long moment. Then she pressed both hands over her mouth. The doctor conducted the secondary examination carefully, taking another drop of blood, running the assessment twice with the thoroughness of a man who understood what accuracy meant here. When he finished, he looked up with a brightness in his face that she had never seen from him before. "You are past the 10th week, my lady." 10 weeks. Her voice came out strange. 3 months. Nearly, yes. Marin sat with her hands over her stomach and tried to arrange herself into something composed. It didn't work particularly well. Her eyes were filling with the unstoppable thoroughness of something she'd been holding back for long enough that it had developed real momentum. "Can you keep this between us?" she managed. "For a little while. I want to tell him myself." "Naturally." The doctor's voice was gentle. "I'll note it in the record." "That's all. Thank you." She stood up, carefully, because she was suddenly convinced that careful was the appropriate speed for all movements. "Thank you for," she stopped. "For all of it. The other times too." He nodded and said nothing, which was the right thing to say. She stopped in the corridor just outside. The stone floor. The tall window at the end of the passage, afternoon light coming through it in long angles. An ordinary hallway in an ordinary afternoon. She stood in it and felt her heart beating. 3 months. There had been a person in her, quietly, for 3 months, while she ate lemon meringue and dreamed of her father and complained about being sleepy and let Gerard make dry remarks about her appetite with an expression of complete satisfaction. 3 months. Her eyes were doing it again. She pressed the back of her hand against them and breathed carefully through her nose. Gerard had been gone a week, inspecting a property in the outer duchy. He was due back this evening, or rather she had been told evening, which with Gerard meant sometime between evening and dawn depending on how the roads were. She had been looking forward to it the ordinary way, the way she always looked forward to his returns, and now she was looking forward to it differently, with a sharp and particular urgency that was almost painful. She laughed at herself a little, standing alone in the corridor, and went to wait for him. She fell asleep waiting. This had become a pattern she was resigned to. She would sit down intending to remain awake and alert, and the next thing she knew several hours had passed and she was horizontal. Tonight she had made it to the bed at least, which was progress of a kind, curled on her side with a book she'd been reading for cover. She surfaced slowly, out of a dream she couldn't hold on to, aware of warmth and a hand moving over her hair. "I didn't mean to wake you," Gerard said. His voice was quiet, slightly apologetic. She opened her eyes. The room was dark except for a single candle. He must have dismissed the lamps to avoid disturbing her, and then come in anyway because he could not stay away, which was very like him and which she was not going to say out loud. "You just arrived?" "I rushed to be back for dinner. I was somewhat late." He pulled her closer, tucking her against his side, his nose against her hair. She felt him exhale, the specific exhale of someone who has been waiting to exhale for a week. "You're awake now," he said. "I'm sleepy." "That's unfortunate." His hand was already moving toward the hem of her nightgown. "You'll have to be sleepy later." "Wait," she pushed at his chest. It was like pushing a very warm, very solid wall with strong feelings about where it intended to be. "I missed you," he said, against her hair, in the particular tone he only used in the dark, low and unguarded and entirely direct. "It was a week." "I missed you too. But there's something I need to tell you first. There is nothing that cannot wait 10 minutes. You would not say that if you knew what it was." A pause. She felt him consider this. He drew back slightly, enough to look at her in the candlelight, the small frown that meant he was genuinely uncertain, the particular quality of his attention when she had said something that caught him. "Tell me," he said. She sat up. Pulled the blanket around her shoulders, less for warmth than for something to hold on to, and faced him. He was watching her. He always watched her like this when he didn't know what was coming, completely still, completely present, nothing held back. She took his hands. His were large and warm around hers, and she felt his fingers close gently, waiting. She looked at him and took a breath and said, "Mr. Gerard. We're going to be parents." The candle flickered. Gerard said nothing. He was very still, stiller than usual, which was saying something, and she watched him receive the information the way he received everything that mattered, without performance, without deflection, in the complete privacy of himself. Then something moved across his face, brief and unguarded, that she had no word for. His hands tightened around hers. "How long?" he said. 10 weeks. Her voice was unsteady. She was smiling and couldn't stop. "Almost 3 months. I only found out today. I didn't want to hope again until I knew for certain." He looked at her for a long moment. Then he let go of her hands, and put both of his around her face instead, tilting it up toward him with a careful deliberateness that was new, or perhaps not new, perhaps always present and now simply visible. "Marin," he said. She was crying. She hadn't noticed until now. He pressed his forehead against hers, and she could feel him breathing, slow, even, the measured breath of a man keeping himself very precisely together. "I worked on this," he said, quietly. "Before we were married. With Jerome. Something biological, to reduce the likelihood of," he stopped. "I wanted to give them something better. Before they even existed." She thought of the laboratory. The quiet, private work he had never mentioned. The small blue vial. "That's why, yes." A pause. "Partly." Marin laughed, a wet, unsteady sound, and leaned into him, and felt his arms come around her with the careful new quality of someone who is now holding more than one thing. Outside, the night was still. Somewhere, on the windowsill where the moonlight reached it, a black stone sat in the dark. Her father's wish, she thought. She pressed her face against her husband's chest and listened to his heart, which was beating very fast, and felt the warmth of him all around her, and thought that some people left behind more than they ever knew they were giving.